Hey guys, we are back with some video notes today talking about consciousness and information processing and how we do all these things. So I know that I said that there weren't going to be any videos for this unit, but in an effort to kind of speed things along, I think it makes sense for me to record this one just on consciousness in general, and then we can spend our class time talking about sleep. So first up, at least an objective for us for this video is what is consciousness? So we're going to walk through the different understandings of consciousness and how that plays out in our brain. So the rest of the objectives here are going to be part of our sleep notes. But for consciousness, we are going to just kind of dive right into the history of it. So if you remember going back to the beginning of the year, psychology started as a science of consciousness. Wilhelm Wundt, if you remember, wanted to know the speed of consciousness, and he conducted the first psychological experiment in order to study that. So our roots as a science, as a field, goes all the way back to understanding what is consciousness. What does this mean? But once the behaviors came around, John Watson in the 1920s, in particular, consciousness, you can't observe it, got to move to observable behavior. Psychology just has to be about behaviorism. But in the 60s, there's a pushback, like everything else. There's this push and pull in the field of psychology, and a revival of the study of consciousness comes to play, both in humanistic psychology and in cognitive psychology. And then now we take a more neuroscience approach to it, like what parts of the brain are there in order to understand our mental states, how does sleep work? What parts of the brain regulate sleep? What parts of the brain regulate hallucinations when they happen? So we can study the parts of the brain, knowing that everything that is psychological is also biological. We can understand consciousness as a function of our brain. So what is it? At the end of the day, what is it? So consciousness has four components, and they're all related to awareness. So you need to be aware of external events, aware of your internal sensations, aware of yourself as a unique being, as someone different from other individuals, and awareness of your thoughts, or in other words, awareness of being aware. So we have awareness of external events. So you have to know what's going on in the world around you, okay? You have to be aware of your internal sensations. What are you feeling? How are you processing them? You need to understand that you are an individual that has a self and has a unique perspective, understanding, and that is experiencing the world around you. And then fourth, you need to have awareness of your awareness, or metacognition, as we call it. The fact that you can be aware that you're aware means that you have consciousness. So in other words, to put it in a sentence, consciousness is awareness of ourselves and our environment. Pretty straightforward, right? So let's go into kind of a fun question, I guess. I don't know if it's fun or not, but do dolphins have consciousness? They seem to, right? They're very intelligent. They have seemingly a communication network through their, clicks. They have complex play and social hierarchies and all these things. They even show signs of culture, right? That they can learn how to do something and then they continue to do it. So this is a question, right, for psychologists. Are they conscious? And then how do we assess whether or not they're conscious? How can we know if they identify themselves as individuals? How do we know if they have metacognition, right? How do we know that they're aware of their awareness? So a lot of interesting studies have been conducted to try to see if this is something that we can show experimentally. Okay. So first, let's kind of work through some more consciousness things and parts of the brain. So consciousness as alertness. So the reticular formation, which you probably remember from last unit, deals with the brain controlling alertness. So if someone were to, say, pass out, maybe from having too much to drink, that is the reticular formation not working. And as you can see, that's part of the brainstem. Another word that we sometimes use for this, just so that we're on the same page, is arousal. And arousal in the psychology sense does almost rarely means sexual arousal. So It just means like, waking up. So we'll probably hear that phrase a lot in the next couple of days. So just get used to it as we talk about sleep. Okay. Okay. So reticular formation deals with alertness or arousal and sleep. Sensory awareness. We should remember that that's from the thalamus, right? All of our senses except one get sent to the thalamus for processing, and then it is sent out onto the cortex. So if we're talking about consciousness as just perception and conscious thought, then the thalamus plays a major role as it receives the information from the sense organs, all except our sense of smell, and then routes that out to the appropriate cortices. Self-awareness is an interesting one. So they've done this cool study where they've anesthetized many animals, chimps, dolphins, parrots, babies, human babies, and they put a red dot on their forehead or somewhere on their face with makeup or something like that. And then they're given a mirror when they come to. They're given a mirror, and the question is, or they're put in front of a mirror, and the question is, do they rub their forehead to get the red dot off, or do they try to rub the forehead off of the mirror image? The thought process behind this is, if an animal passes the mirror test, as it's often called, then they have self-awareness. They recognize their own reflection in the mirror as themselves, that it's not just another individual of their species. Okay, so thinking about the outside world and your role in it is a major part of consciousness. So rubbing your own, you see it like I'm looking into my reflection with this video. If I'm rubbing my forehead because I see that there's a mark there, then obviously I know that I'm me, being that the image that I'm seeing is of me, and then I respond accordingly. The interesting thing is this was done to check the consciousness of small kids, and up until a certain age, humans fail this test reliably. So it's interesting to think about, if this is how we're measuring consciousness, then what does that say about like a 18-month-old that rubs the mirror instead of her forehead? It's interesting. And we do know that elephants, other primates, dolphins, and parrots have passed the test reliably. Now there are some. If any of you have dogs, guys know I'm a dog lover. Some dogs understand that the mirror is them, and some dogs don't understand that and freak out every time they come across a mirror, thinking that there's another dog that looks just like them. So it's also hard to talk about things from a species-wide general statement, because individuals vary, and it's interesting to think about how that could play out across species. The one thing we do know is what we'll call neurotypical humans, quote unquote average or normal, are conscious. We meet all four criteria, and it actually seems like a lot of other animals do too. So that's that. That's consciousness. Nice, short, sweet video. And in class, like I said, we'll be going over all of the things related to sleep. So any questions that you guys have, reach out. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.